All right, everyone, we are back for the last half of the Lycan League. Or the last half, sorry, the last part. We're definitely not doing it another twice as long as we've already done. So we are back. We're going to talk Apollo's Fight Night. We're going to talk about the Fragbite stuff. Then we're going to talk about the Legacy of the Void changes to include the balance updates, and then our suggestions, our impressions of units thus far into the beta, and then we'll go over your questions. So we're going to keep a good, steady flow on this one, and we're going to kick it right off with Apollo's Fight Night. Apollo, first of all, awesome work. That was a really fun tournament series to watch. So what was your overall impression at the end of the tournament? What were your feelings about the overall state of the game?
I wish my PC and shit didn't die halfway through. That's my first thoughts, but it's cool. It brought a highlight and a spotlight to Legacy and decent players playing. And I was playing a lot of Legacy myself, so I just wanted to get it out there and have some fun with it, and it went well.
Good, good. So when you walked out of that, would you say, do you echo the sentiment after that Zerg is still the dominant race in the beta?
Yeah, it's close between Zerg and Terran, I think. I mean, Cyclones and Mech is pretty strong overall. Zerg's definitely strong as well, and I feel like Terran and Zerg both have strong aspects. It's hard to say which is stronger, I think, because there has been a lack of games on it, and there's always something new that's happening. But Protoss just feels the weaker one because they don't have something strong about them compared to Zerg and Terran.
Do you have a fight night tomorrow?
No, it was just a one-off.
Okay. Who's going to be playing?
No, I mean, I don't have one tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right.
It was just a one-off last week.
All right. Someone in chat asked who's playing tomorrow. So maybe it's a different organization running that guy in chat. But all right. So, CatZ, you played in the fight night, all right? I know you played the Archon match, right? Did you play another match other than that?
Just the Archon.
Just the Archon. That was it. That was a TVZ, right?
Yeah. Right.
All right. So, did you released that build order? Did you use that build in that game?
Yep.
Okay.
Apollo made fun of me.
I didn't make. Oh yeah, okay, I'd made fun of you. Yeah, well, the most refined build in Legacy of the Void.
I said it was my most refined build.
I'm really sure you said the most.
No, I said my most refined, or the most refined I've come up with so far, or something along those lines. Either way, it's a pretty fucking refined build.
It was.
All right, so
I had to write an article on it just to show this plebs.
So what was you discussed in your article? You know what a build order is, and you explained the build. Can you explain, I guess, why this build is efficient the way you've designed it?
I mean, I explained it in the post, but basically just the way that the order in which I do things for the build order and corners I cut and everything leading up to a certain point, everything with the same strategy in mind and everything fitting perfectly at, the end of the build, which is the attack.
You're very well known as an extremely creative player. You come up with a lot of unique strategies, and it takes a lot to not just look at the units and decide, oh, okay, well, this unit's going to be strong at this moment, whatever, but to make it efficient, like you talk about. So when you're taking a build, or you take your idea and you want to get it into action, how do you refine it? Do you sit with a notepad and you say, okay, I need X number of minerals and this and that and the other to get to this point? These are the units I have to worry about up until that point. How do you do that when you refine
usually through testing, and sometimes I just have an idea for a build and I wonder, why does this work or doesn't it work? And then I test it on the ladder, and if it doesn't work, I'll find out why. And then if I'm doing something wrong, I'll work on that. And if it's looking promising, if it's looking like I should make adjustments, if it's looking like I should put more time into it, then I do.
Okay. Now, when it comes to mineral management and gas management, do you calculate that beforehand, or do you just go through the build order and be like, okay, I ended up floating, 100 gas, so I could probably take an SCV or a drone off of that? Or do you
sort of like that. Okay. I mean, for example, for that particular build, initially when the alpha mod was released, and I learned that Ravagers can damage buildings, I was like, okay, so Protoss shouldn't be able to stop this because you can just kill the cannons with the Ravagers and the force fields with the Ravagers. So you can kill everything with the Ravagers, and then a Link Flood should be unstoppable without a sentry or cannons, which are like the two most efficient ways that Protoss would have to defend, aside from Nexus Cannon, which has been nerfed by proxy along a lot of things that. And this is where I kind of go back to where I was saying, and like how like Blizzard should be more in touch with the players, because I think that things like this, like I could have brought up things like this before they were released, and I feel like they weren't looked at enough. Like, for example, there are things that are not obvious, such as the economy is sped up, right? But for example, the overlord speed isn't sped up. Therefore, scouting with an overlord is nerfed by proxy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if they take things into account like that, because obviously you'll have units to deny the scouting information earlier. Same goes for energy units, like the Mothership Core, like the Sentry. They spawn with the same amount of energy as before, and even though there's going to be more units out faster, they don't gain energy faster. So they have a hard time keeping up with things like this timing attack, for example. Same goes for a ton of fucking shit. Just so many things that seem to have been neglected, and it's not so much negligence as much as it is, just not someone that noticed it right away in the development team. And things like that are bound to happen, but they would be much less likely to happen if there was any line of communication in between.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, it is a longer beta, so, that does make me wonder, did they take those into consideration, or did they say, we know there are going to be those kind of issues, so we expect to deal with them as we see them come up?
Yeah, for example, transitions. And I don't want to, just flame Blizzard, because they have done a good job of implementing a lot of the ideas that we've brought up over time in Legacy of the Void.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to make it clear that, if we don't implement changes now, they're less likely to happen. Now is the most crucial time, and that's why I try to hard press on this kind of thing, and on Blizzard communicating a little bit better, on Blizzard listening a little bit better, because now is the time to listen.
Yep.
So yeah, like for instance, I talked a lot about in the Blizzard chat, and I talked a lot about them on my stream, how transitions are also nerfed because of how the game works, right? So, for example, the lurker, and this is an example that I gave multiple times. You don't see it a lot, and everyone on my stream is always like, "Oh, make lurkers, make lurkers." And I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna make lurkers." You know why? Because you need a spawning pool, then a lair, right? Hydra, then lurker, then you make a hydra, then you morph it into a lurker, then you make a hive, and then you get the upgrade for a lurker. Whereas I can make a spawning pool, a roach den, or whatever the fuck it's called, roach warren. I don't fucking play the game. Roach warren, and then just make roaches and morph them into ravagers, and they're pretty fucking good units. So why the fuck would I ever make a lurker, right?
Yeah.
And there are units that overlap that are much easier to transition into, like banelings, for example, overlap somewhat with lurkers. Ravagers, to an extent, with their corrosive bile, overlap somewhat with lurkers. So just generally speaking, transitions as well were nerfed by the way this works, because you're trading more often, you're trying to deny bases more often, and you need as many units as you can get. And transitioning costs money and costs time. So they're just less likely to happen. It's less likely to find a place in the game. And I was really happy to read the patch notes, because they actually pretty much said exactly what I said on lurkers.
Mm-hmm.
And now there are units like the Ultralisk, which seems incredibly overpowered, and it is. You cannot go bio against Ultralisks, right? They're with the new armor upgrade, they're just way too fucking strong.
Nope.
But at the same time, that's kind of the feeling that you would get in Brood War with Brood War Ultralisks, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because even though Ultralisks take less to transition than lurkers do, or to transition into than lurkers do, there's still a pretty hefty transition. So there should be a big reward. You're very likely to die, or you will have to stay defensive on less bases, or on 3 bases perhaps, as a Zerg, which is not ideal, in order to achieve your goal of getting to Ultralisks safely. So I like that approach, where the carrier, the battlecruiser, the Ultralisk are all very, very strong, because there's a transition. So maybe the transitions were kind of looked at, but then there's things like the lurker, which doesn't fit anywhere. So I'm not sure. So yeah.
No, I think those are really good points. Nathanias, what do you think about we'll wrap this up. We're gonna get definitely more into that topic. So real quick, let's hit on the Fragbite Masters show matches brought to you by McDonald's. First question is, how comfortable are those pajamas? Are they pajamas? Like they look like long johns. What are they?
I mean, it's not pajamas, man. It's like a shirt, and I guess it's more like.
Did you have the same trousers as well?
They gave us the trousers, but there was no reason to wear them there because we were gonna take public transportation home, and you guys don't see our legs on stream, But they're actually pretty comfortable. They're not actually regular t-shirts and like pants. It's actually like I don't know what it was made out of, but it felt like it kind of like if you guys worn like exercise clothing or whatever, it was actually kind of nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Dennis, can I ask you a question?
Go for it.
I like how you just anticipated in this. How silly did you feel?
Silly? It was my idea. It was my idea.
Oh, really?
I made sure to make sure that
okay.
the Swedish McDonald's guys and all of them saw it, man.
Wait, so how?
I like having I like that tournament. I like being able to work it, and I like them having sponsors so that they can do it. So I try to support the sponsors, man. They had these commercials that we were using like all season, and they had like there was one time after like during one of our broadcasts, like the board of McDonald's directors from Sweden like all came over to like watch and see how it was all run or whatever. And I had it because they have these commercials where everybody's wearing this shit all over Sweden. If any of you guys that are from Sweden, I don't know, I guess all over Sweden, but Stockholm, like even going up just the SL, you come out in the center of the city and there's these big fucking ads, people wearing these shirts and stuff. So it seemed like a bit of like a Swedish meme or whatever. So
you get free like, McDonald's out of it.
I was like, why don't we just do it for shits and giggles? Like we had the last season, we had the big Estrella chips thing where we put like a bunch of fucking bags of chips in front of us and we just pretended they weren't there. Like it was kind of funny. And I think it was like, it's just funny enough without being like too stupid because it's relevant as well. I don't know. I thought it was.
So how resistant was the Muslim to the?
It wasn't resistant at all. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Good. And second, you can help your sponsors out. Can we get these? Like, is there? Did they sell these online?
You can order them. They were in the commercial. The
Were
commercial
they?
that played. Like, yeah, when they showed them like all playing pool.
Do you have that look like him?
It's like
No, I don't. Like, in fact,
I like how we're talking about this and not the show matches. But if you go to bigmacshop.se, you can order those. I believe they said they're going to be going international soon. TM. I don't know. Maybe you can already order international. It's like 398 SEK. So it's like for a jumper and
how much is that in real money? Like,
okay.
You're looking at paying. I think it's like 30 some dollars for this. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
$30 plus, right?
Dude, they have more than just like they have.
You can get a raincoat for your dog. You can get a fucking raincoat. You can get a pillowcase. There's a bunch of shit on that website.
If I bought one for you, would you wear it on your stream for X amount of time?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's already part of my scheme to get more dirty donations. I'm gonna be like,
oh, you already have one.
I have. They let me keep it. They let me.
Oh, you still got it.
I still have my McDonald's shirt. And
I was just giving them shit for not wearing it.
Yeah, I have the shirt. I have the shirt and the pants.
So this is the. I'm showing it on stream, guys. This is the thermal that Nathanias had. If you missed it, it's pretty hot. Then you can get bed sheets to match, right?
Yeah, they got all this
bed linen.
crazy.
If you want to wrap your presents in Big Mac paper, there you go. I think Dexter's going to be getting the dog coat because that's perfect. There's the raincoat, and then you can get Wellington boots. That is incredible.
See,
you're a sexy guy, Nathan.
All these people kept messaging me. They're like, Nate, where could I get this? Like, I want one so bad. I'm like, guys, they link the fucking website where you can buy them every single time we go.
Hey, CatZ, would you wear one of these?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, same.
That's fucking hilarious. You guys need to
step up that game.
Fun. You learn to have fun sometimes. You know?
Huge thanks to Bay Straight TV for the host. I love you, Graham.
Wow, literal gods.
Literal gods. And also, thank you, Nathanias, for opening my eyes to this, because I think the only thing I need.
It's my new stream gimmick, man. Hey guys, we hit X number of donations. Pikachu suit. We hit the next tier. I fucking put I put the burger shirt on. Boom. That's how you pay the bills here in Rancho Cucamonga.
I wonder if I can get like a Ronald McDonald cover for my waifu pillow. That's what we need. Anyway, so let's talk about the Fragbite Master Show matches, right? Anything?
CatZ build showed up. It was pretty funny.
Did it?
Yeah.
What was the matchup for that?
Xanster absolutely wrecked Tasia in like the first map that we had. Tasia, it was funny because Tasia made this big tweet. He's like, "Play my first ever Legacy of the Void match ever, like broadcasted." And then 2 minutes later, he just tweets out, he's like,
Uninstalled.
Uninstall.
Yeah, that's what, when I chose the people for my show matches, not like saying the show matches that you had were bad, but I really wanted people that had played a bit, you know? Because what did you learn from Tasia's show match?
I didn't have any hand in organ.
That my build is too strong.
The idea for that match, by the way, was to be a team match of sorts. So that's why it was Tasia, because they wanted Team Liquid versus Team Property, because they want Swedish people as well. So
yeah. No, that's it. It was anything. Did you walk away with the Zerg OP mine? Did you see people, figuring out the Ravager? Did you see anyone, particularly countering the Ravager from either Terran or Protoss?
It was either like crazy fast Ravager, or it wasn't really like an issue. For ZVZ,
should we go into more discussion about the
I think that's like, if we want to talk about overall discussions, the show matches, I didn't see anything particularly crazy, to be honest. Nothing like really blew my mind. But it looked a lot like the beta games that I've seen. I don't know, Cyclones kicking ass and shit and whatever.
All right, well, we're going to go now into that section and we'll kick it off with the Ravager right off the bat. The state of the Ravager. Didn't really see it addressed in the patch changes, did we? No. So, well, I'll take it to you, CatZ, on your thoughts on that. Like, do you think it should possibly be layer tech?
I think so, yeah.
I agree.
I think that's the general consensus on the Ravager.
Yeah, I think overall the design, I like the unit. I think it's a very fun unit. I'm a Terran player, but I enjoy the Ravager. I don't mind going up against it. It just seems that how early they can get it out really seems to hurt the early game.
Well, at the same time,
perspective though, they wanted it early.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, at the same time, if you and I know the general consensus is Zerg is probably the best race.
Mm-hmm.
I thought so up until recently, but I think Terran mid game and late game is better, where Zerg just has better timing attacks early on. So I think if you play an early to mid game style, then Zerg is the strongest race.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to play a macro game, then Terran is probably the strongest race.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing for me. That's crappy design, in my opinion. And what the Ravager does do, having it this early on, is it potentially, like, if everyone starts doing that one base Ravager build, for example, and like I was telling Apollo, he said on Twitter that he started opening 12 full and then 10 links, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's if it's a build that's punishing enough for the other races, then that makes it so that the meta shifts to where the other races have to be more cautious expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not necessarily a bad thing, because if the other races, obviously taking Protoss out of the equation, like if Terran is in fact stronger in the mid game, then it's fine to have units like this in the early game to force them to slow down going into the mid game.
All right, so what about the? I can definitely agree with that, and again, full acknowledgement since we've jumped in viewers, and if those of you who haven't been here before, I'm Platinum. We've discussed this, but what I found is that I really like opening tanks first. So I go gas first tank with a medevac, and the maneuvering that I can do with the medevac, it seems to very much help against the early Ravagers. It's not a guaranteed win, and some of the when I get matched against,
you can't do it against my build, man.
There's lots of the problem is, like, it's not that there's no counter to the Ravager builds, it's that the commitment you need to make to deal with an early Ravager build makes you lose to a lot of other things. Most Zergs that I play against that don't open Ravager go really fast muta, so if you open fast tank, you just kind of get shit on.
Yeah.
Like,
very true.
But yeah, at the same time, that's another meta thing, like
I'm not saying that it's like ridiculous, but the Ravager builds cut off too many options because of how fast you can get them.
Well, you have to make that decision early too, don't you? Like,
well, you have to decide. It's like, do I want to go for anything other than a tank If yes, you're conceding that you will most likely die to any early Ravager attack.
The same applies for Zerg though. Like if you don't go for a 2 base feed and they go tank drop, you better be killing them on their side of the map with Ravagers, because otherwise you lost.
Do you think the tank? What do you think of the tank drop, CatZ, as a Zerg dealing with it?
I initially thought it was going to be worse than it is, but the skill cap is really high, and I'm not sure how much I like that.
It's very hard to properly utilize tank drops.
So it's kind of like a unit like the Reaper or the Hellions, and I don't like the design of those units simply because they rely on one player's micro as opposed to your own micro to defend them.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you're playing Flash and he's just able to do everything perfectly while doing that harassment, then you're always going to be at a disadvantage. And those units are just not good design, in my opinion. That's why I always hated the Reaper. And
when we did the Fight Night stuff, I'm not sure we saw a tank drop in 1v1 games, but I saw it a lot in ladder games, and it wasn't that good in 1v1. But when we did the Archon, when the Muslim and Bunny was doing all the macro back at home and doing the base building, and then the Muslims was all right, let's have some fun with these, and that's when it was really strong.
Yeah, like, or even then, like even one person controlling the tank drop and the other one controlling the Reapers in that particular so much.
Right.
Yeah. Like quick note on that. Just Archon mode is really fun. It's really nice for casuals. I don't think it will be competitive unless they can swap some things around. Simply because Zerg has an inherent disadvantage in it, and that's because we can't hotkey eggs if we divide the tasks as micro and macro. So for Zerg, and our race is more positional, more so like if you think about it, like we're working on a surround. Terran is the race that will react to our surround and micro as best as they can, but we can't really do too much micro other than like mutas, sniping medevacs, maybe pushing a few links forward during the fight. Things that one single player can do easily, where the cap for Terran units and micro of Terran units is much higher, and it's obviously unreachable at one point. No one can play Terran perfectly, and that's where it balances itself out.
Right.
What about perfection on creep spread and injects?
Yeah, sure, but okay. That's if you do injects, that's the player macroing most likely, right? And that same player is like you could have perfect creep spread for one player, perfect overlord spread for one player. But that's the only two things that the other person would be able to handle without fucking over everything else. Kind of like it's not really fucking over, but it's an extra step that Zerg has to go through in hotkeying the eggs, like hotkeying units instead of the eggs, right? It's a disadvantage. So yeah, you could have perfect creep spread and perfect overlord spread, but I'm not sure if that's enough to counterbalance the other races being able to micro with two people.
Okay. I definitely like that thought though about the counterbalance through not hard counters, and I think that's a recurring theme in Legacy of the Void. Isn't necessarily that you're going to counter these units or the new design from like Stalker to Marauder, that kind of counter. It's more going to be what can you do around that, how can you engage. And I think that's again, going back to that word refreshing, that's what's really nice about the new game.
The only other thing I would say about that is like it's very interesting to see what we expect as far as results go, and then what ends up happening clash. Because like most Terrans I talk to, like I speak to Muslim and he speaks to all the all the other the good Terrans, is that like opening up tank drop isn't even something that most good players want to do, because it just fucks them. So they like hurt themselves so badly, just because in order to micro it enough to the point where it's really useful. Because if you try to half-ass it, then I've found that, or at least like what I've been told as well, is that like Zergs who have like good queen control open up with a good number of queens, like you can't like look away from it, otherwise you'll just take too much damage on your medevac and then eventually lose it. So it's in a weird way it balances itself out, because we don't have anybody good enough to macro while using it. Or
I don't think tank drop is overpowered or anything like that, and queens are a good response as well.
Definitely. There's a question in chat, and it's something that I definitely did want to bring up with you guys. I really haven't focused on it myself. Nathanias, as a Terran, can you explain what the change was to the Marauder specifically? And my assessment is that it seems to make it not such a hard counter to things like Stalkers, but you want to...
So here's the thing with the Marauder, and it's like, I don't know if it affects like Stalkers, because I had actually a long talk with the Muslim about this when we both kind of started to look at it. And it's so the change overall, for anyone that doesn't know, is that the Marauder no longer shoots one attack. Like if you play Heart of the Swarm, it just like fires and it does 10 damage to normal units and it does 20 damage to armored units. So for Legacy, the way they've changed it into 2 attacks that deal the same damage spread out. So it's 5 damage versus light times 2, and then versus armored, it's 10. So the natural advantage of this, so like the one that the Muslim and I found, is that versus light units, Marauders will be more effective with upgrades because you'll get +2 rather than +1 for the upgrades. But against armored, especially, one of the things that we talked about a lot was like Ultralisks, because we talked about like Terran Bio versus Zerg late game. So you have the upgrade for armored, which will take the Ultralisk's armor, which scales much better than the Marauder's attack upgrades versus armored in the late game. That effectively neutralizes the Marauder as a unit that can bring down armored units. I don't think it really affects too much other units, except, you know, anything that has like a lot of armor, but not many units start with more than 1 armor, which is all Protoss units anyway, which is where you mostly build Marauders to fight against. And I don't think it affects Marauders versus mech, but it's mostly like a late game TVZ issue of dealing
against
with
roaches too, probably, right?
Yeah, it sucks against roaches before you have any upgrades out. Yeah.
So it kind of puts a little emphasis on the importance of getting +1.
Yeah. So Marauders are just weaker against armored units that have upgrades for armor or shields.
Which is a bit silly, right? Because that's what they're supposed to counter.
That's what they're supposed to deal with. But I imagine this, I don't know, that they're pushing away from bio late game is the only thing it really says to me, which most other Terrans I've spoken to agree with.
No. Yeah, I mean, mech is the better play tool, the better way to play right now, anyway.
For sure.
Yep. Apollo, let's move it. Let me pull up my list real quick. So we've talked a little bit about the Marauder. We've talked about the Ravager. Let's talk about the Cyclone, right? It's a hot topic. It's definitely something that does need to be adjusted. I think that a good way to start, kind of like putting Ravager on Lair Tech, would be possibly a good way to start with looking at, you know, that unit. I think a good way to start with this would be taking away that it can lock on a unit and then move out of vision of it, right? So instead, you would have to, you can keep the range, but you would have to, or you can keep the lock on as you go back further, but you would have to have a unit in range. So that would force the Terran to kind of keep some of its Bioforce up there if the Cyclone is trying to micro out of the range of it.
I mean, yeah, I like the way that it can fire, even though you can't see it anymore. I do like that aspect of it.
Okay.
But the one thing I don't like at all is that it's auto lock on. That's the one thing I would change drastically, like straight away. That just cut that out, and then address maybe removing the lock on in Fog of War, because the auto lock on is so stupid, man.
I don't use it though.
It's so easy. I mean, you use it automatically. You use attack move, and it auto locks on anything.
Yeah. Well, you can turn it off though. So I don't. I immediately disable
Turning it off is good. I mean, it's better. That's the way it should be. And you should.
It's not.
You shouldn't have an auto. You should just be able to manually click it and click on what you want to target, and then play it that way. Yeah, there shouldn't be an auto ability.
It's not necessarily better. I like. Yeah, go on.
The auto lock-on only seems like a noob-friendly thing. Like if you have it in your base and something flies by and you're not looking, it'll lock on. Like that's the advantage, is, you know, like for,
yeah.
But not everybody's gonna like immediately click on their minimap, target the Oracle, and then kill it. Like like setting it to patrol as base defense. I can see where auto lock-on is useful there.
Oh no, it's absolutely useful. I think auto lock is useful.
But I mean, for most engagements, I actually think it can be too good against certain army compositions, but it also hurts you when it locks on random shit, because it will lock on to the closest thing, and the lock-ons don't automatically stack. So if you're like trying to target down a Colossus and you A move, two of your Cyclones are going to lock onto a Zealot, and if you're being aggressive, it's very common for them to like lock on assimilators and shit. It happens way too often, actually. Like even the auto lock on is kind of broken.
Really low as well, right? It's only like 4 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that most pros would turn off the auto lock on though. It's still very good. like you said, like for example, you fly your mutas around and then they just die, and it's like this guy wasn't even looking and he fucking killed my like 5 mutas, you know. So yeah, I don't know, because it's also gonna be extra taxing, right? If you take the auto lock on off, it's taxing even for a professional.
Micro intensive.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's good though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be a good change. I'm just saying the auto lock on is a good thing right now for Theron. Like, it's not a disadvantage to professional gamers. Like, I don't think most would turn it off.
I can definitely I can agree with that. I just know that my personal preference is to be able to choose, because you have that little bit of random. You know, it might lock on to something during a very important engagement that doesn't need to be locked onto.
But if you think about the strengths of this unit as well, that I mean, it's strong at all points, but using it in the late game, which is definitely being used right now, it counters everything. Everything. There is nothing that can stop this thing.
It's too well
pretty much.
And you can just move around by clicking, attack moving around the map, and it just kills anything. And then at this stage of the game, as Zerg and Protoss, you're like, okay, well, I'll build really expensive units to fucking kill this thing. No, that doesn't work, because Ultralists just get locked on and kited. Any A army you try to build as Terran or Protoss, just destroyed. Same with Zerg. It's way.
I mean, there's ways to go around it. There's approaches that you can take, but still the unit is too well rounded. Like, for example, fungal could be an option. But again, that requires transitions, money, like a bunch of shit. And at that point in the game, by the way, Terran feels really good because of the muling, and just because once you, like, you know, as soon as you take a new base, you can take advantage of it. And because of how spread out the Zerg is, it's easy to like use Hellions to harass the like further away bases and stuff like that. But yeah, just generally speaking, you can do things about it, like for example, speed banelings, stuff like that. But even then, you're not really looking for a very cost efficient trade ever. I don't feel. It's just a little bit too well rounded of a unit. If it didn't hit air, for example, then you could punish it with muta, for example. But like, yeah, it's just too well rounded. Like you said, it's just.
Yeah. And then combine it with Hellbats and it's just over, man.
My favorite.
The biggest. Sorry.
Go ahead, Nathanias.
The biggest thing about the Cyclone that it kind of reminds me of, and I don't know if this is too extreme of like a comparison, but it's like the old fungals from the Infestors and Wings of Liberty, where it's like once they've got you, you're fucked. You know, it's like you can't do anything. Like for the most part, like if a Cyclone locks onto you, it's like, oh well, my unit moves faster. Well, the range is long enough that it'll kill you before you get away. Oh, I'm a high ground, or I'm a flying unit that can go above terrain. Well, it doesn't lose vision once it locks onto you. And then it's like, oh, I can try to kill it before it kills me. Well, things at fucking 200 hit points. It's like it's 50% beefier than a goddamn.
Yeah, that's true as well. I forgot about that.
Like the it's like it's so like it's fucking it makes TVT really stupid, because people actually just charge into your fucking siege tanks in the early game with Cyclones because you can't kill them fast enough. Like, so like that's I agree. It's something that needs to be toned down. They have a lot of different ways they can tone it down, which is the nice thing. They don't have to straight up destroy the unit, but like there's a couple of things that seem like very obvious fixes. For example, you know, in my eyes, it's the hit points and being able to hit units that you don't have any vision of. Like Terrans, you know, fucking scan anyway, man. You're gonna mine out all your bases if all you do is drop mules. So
I think my favorite thing to do with this unit is to kill a mothership core in the early game. You get that early Cyclone, and you catch a mothership core just kind of hanging too far out of the front of the base, and they can't retreat it back far enough to photon overcharge.
It's really messed up the early game of Terran versus Protoss. I don't think there's been any massive changes to Protoss recently that anyone's tried to figure this out, because the Cyclone just kills you if you don't open up Stargate.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It shuts down Oracle. It shuts down Fast War Prism.
Void Rays.
Anything, man.
Fast aggression. Any fast aggression Protoss can bring to you, the Cyclone completely shits on. It's like I have a mothership core in PvT.
It's like
you can't touch me.
It's like the Cyclone gives you that same fear, the fear that Terrans had when they gave the speed buff to Oracles. Then it was like, shit, well, now I don't know what I'm going to get. Am I going to proxy Oracle, proxy Dark Templar, or is it going to be a mothership core push? I don't know what's coming. Now Protoss knows what's coming, but they're still scared shitless. It's wonderful. I love it. But again, for the sake of the community and the game, yes, I understand this needs to be changed.
Yeah.
I mean, just touching on that, one of the reasons that Protoss is so weak, aside from what I mentioned before that wasn't taken into account, like I didn't mention before, I don't think that building times, I don't think have changed either. For example, for Terran and Protoss structure. So I feel like that's why Zerg is powerful with the timing attacks right now, because the production doesn't kick until later and we get units earlier because we need hatcheries early anyway. So the thing for Protoss though is they only got the Adept as an early on unit right now, and it's just not comparable to the Ravager or the Cyclone. Yeah. So in order to get the Death Ball thing, what's it called?
Disruptor.
In order to get the Disruptor, you need like a Robo and a Robotics Bay. That's after a Cybercore. It's just too much transitioning for Protoss to do right now to get a new unit or a useful unit that's gonna help them out. So I think if they removed the Robotics Bay requirement for the what's it called?
Ooh, that's nasty, man. You can't do that. No.
That'd be interesting. That'd be very interesting.
It'd be interesting.
No, that's so dangerous, man.
Oh,
why not?
There's our segue into the Disruptor. So now we're on Disruptor.
Why the fuck not?
I mean, sure, it still costs 300 gas, and being a unit that early on is going to be very difficult to pull off. But
like
still.
you could make it cost 350 gas or something like that instead.
I like that idea.
Why?
Why? Because Protoss is shit, man. Like
you get to like make a buff to a unit rather than trying to nerf all the things that make it bad about coming out of Robo Bay, right? If you can get it out early enough to deal with Ravager bullshit, then maybe it's a good fucking way to do it, you know?
So
yeah.
You know how many Warp Prisms and Disruptors you're going to see early on?
Then my fucking Cyclones will try to target down the Warp Prisms. And
then when your ability's gone on the Cyclone?
I mean, that's
cool. That's cool, though. That's interaction between units.
Yeah, exactly. If that became the meta, it would be very similar to going for something like a tank drop, right? Where you can still... it's still, like... The way the meta shifts around units is really cool, because if something like that happens, then it suddenly forces us to like be a little bit more wary, like as Zerg players or as Terran players. It's not necessarily the unit that the Protoss can make earlier is super strong, it's the way it interacts with the rest of your game plan, right? Like you potentially need mutas out really fast if you want to deal with that. And that stops you in itself of going for like super fast Ravagers, for example, right? Or if you go for super fast Ravagers, then you have like base trade scenario, stuff like that. I don't know. I think that the main problem with Protoss right now, aside from the build times, which is also a problem for Terran right now, in my opinion, that was overlooked, is that they don't have a strong unit in the early game, where we have Ravagers and Terran has Cyclones. That's early mid game.
All right. So here's two thoughts. First is you could make it a I don't know, like a forge upgrade for the damage on specifically, or somewhere make a damage specific upgrade for the. Not on the forge, put it on the cybernetics core, right, for the Disruptor. But at the same time, I don't mind that idea that you were talking about, the how many Warp Prisms and Disruptors will you see, because in this game, something a recurring trend is that you can take damage, you can take probe and worker, you can take worker damage early on or different parts, and it's not killing you the way it would in Heart of the Swarm. You can take massive army loss in this game, and it's not killing you the way it would in Heart of the Swarm. You can sacrifice those forces for attempted drops, and it might put you a little behind, but you're not flat out dead like you would have been in HOTS.
Yeah, that's also a massive investment. That like one or two of those things in a Warp Prism on the other side of the map is going to make you much more likely to die to any timing attack as well. So there's a risk associated with it as well.
I don't think Protoss is that bad right now. I mean, against Terran,
shit, dude. No, it's
really?
Yeah, okay, like you can lose to Protoss late game, especially if they like turtle on 3 base and 4 base. And I know we haven't seen much of that, but again, we mentioned it before. It's just a beta, and the way the economy works right now is not different enough that Protoss cannot turtle on 3 or 4 base or 3 base in long enough to build a 150 supply army that will allow them to take a 4th base, that will allow them to max out in a really cost efficient army, and we have kind of Heart of the Swarm all over, right?
I feel like I don't know. I just see this. There's a lot of potential there with Protoss still, and I don't think it's been fully explored.
No, I don't think so. Like again, the Adept is a unit that's very similar.
The Adept is that's bad.
Yeah, but like if you think about it, and again, I have to say it again, it looks like Blizzard and the developers overlooked a lot of the changes that were happening by proxy. So, for example, the Adept is a unit that, on paper, if you put it in Heart of the Swarm, is fantastic. It's a Protoss Reaper, right? Which is just nuts. But if you put it in Legacy of the Void, well, the Reaper's kind of shit now, right? Because we get units earlier, we get the Queen earlier, we just have a lot easier time dealing with harassment in general, harassment units. So then the Adept loses a lot of the power that it was probably meant to have.
Yep.
And yeah, Protoss needs a unit in that stage of the game, I feel like, to stay competitive. Now, the other approach is to make more maps like the map that has 3 bases. I don't know what it's called, but it has 3 bases. No, the one that has the rocks that you can take down and save 3 bases.
Oh,
is it Echo?
No. It's a 4-player, I think.
It's not Iron Fortress, right?
I'm looking at them. No, it's not that one. I don't know the
I don't remember the map names either. Looking it up.
Well, what do you take the rocks?
Well, either way, like the way the game will balance itself out if Blizzard doesn't do anything about it, in my opinion, it's got to be through maps, right? That's what we always have to resort to, and we can do that. Like on maps like where it's really easy to take 3 base, the Protoss can macro and turtle into this unit composition. But if that's the only viable way that the Protoss has to play, and it's the way that we've gotten sick of, kind of anyway, right? It's not ideal. So I really feel like Protoss should have an earlier tool that's effective. I really think that Zerg and Terran are much stronger races right now.
Yeah, but for Blizzard, they're not going to make a new unit. Like, there's no way they're making a new Protoss unit.
No. But they can just remove the say, just make the whatever it's called cost 50 more gas. Disruptor. Make 50 more gas, 100 more gas. Fuck it. I mean, how much is the row of a costing gas?
200.
Yeah. So I mean, if you make each one of those death bolt thingies cost 200 more gas, I think that's realistic. I never really see more than 2 or 3 disruptors. So if you effectively increase their gas cost by 100, I think that would be pretty fair. It would be a really large investment to get them still, and they would get them a lot earlier, which is what matters.
So let's talk about the disruptor itself as a unit and the way it plays. First of all, I don't know about you guys, but I very much lose. Only time I really lose to a disruptor is if I'm not babysitting a little pack of units, and I take my eyes away too long for them to run a disruptor and just kill the entire ball, right?
1 second. Like, people in chat are like, make the disruptor cost more? What the fuck? That's insane. 400 gas? Well, yeah, but if you're cutting the row away gas cost, which, like, most likely you're getting the row away only to get disruptors out anyway, then it doesn't actually cost more. It actually costs less.
It's saving time. It lets you get it out earlier.
It saves time, gives you more options, and if anything, it costs less until you make 3 or 4, which is rarely the case.
The thing is with this, the disruptor, I don't think is that strong. I've played against it with some decent players. Like, I've played Showtime, I played some others on ladder, but when they use it without, I know, man, I'm fucking so good. That unranked MMR, man.
Kappa.
Fucking Nathanias. When the disruptor is used on the ground by itself, is very avoidable. Like, it's very easy to split. I think the problem comes when I've played is when they use it with a warp prism, and they fucking fly from behind you or fly from a different angle, and then you don't quite see it properly, and then the next thing you know, before you even realize, it's over. That's when it becomes really strong.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for harassment. It's great for harassment as a Zerg player, but like, Zerg player has unexplored ways of harassing as well, so I don't mind it too much. Like, against the disruptor, what's it called? Warp prism. We can either go Muta, or we can go for. I really like, for example, Link Swarmhost styles, where you get a timing, and then the flying locusts become a really good harassment tool, very similar to what Muta would be able to accomplish, except you're going after bases instead of workers, or structures instead of workers, usually. So, I really don't mind it too much. And like, for example, Ravager timings that we were talking about before. if you leave your base with that disruptor, yeah, you can do a lot of damage on their side of the map, but you're also much more likely to die because you have that many less resources in your army back at home, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, as the thing is with the beta at this stage, the major things that have to change are things that are just completely fucked up. And then the rest of it needs to be hashed out in a lot of game volume, which is hard to do because there's not that many people playing.
I do think it's fucked up how bad Protoss is, though. I think it's a pretty urgent concern.
But I think once you, are you talking just Protoss versus Zerg? Because I think once you change the Cyclone, you change that matchup already.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, if the Cyclone has changed, then yeah, the matchup is, or it would just probably be a Protoss versus Zerg issue. But maybe they don't have to change the Cyclone so much. Maybe just a little tweak here and there and make Protoss a little bit more powerful. Now, there are more concerns that I have with Legacy of the Void. Is this the time to bring them? Or?
Yeah. So, yeah, we're just going through Legacy of the Void. So go ahead.
Okay, cool. I forgot what I was going to say. So.
All right, well, while you remember that, we'll go into the next one, which is... All right, I love this. I'm not a Protoss player, but I love the Stasis Ward. I think when they said that they wanted the Oracle to have some mid and late game viability, so let's give it a speed buff, that was not the way to go. The Stasis Ward, I think, makes that Oracle extremely valuable in early, mid, and late game. I think it's it's so simple, but it's awesome. I'm gonna go to you, Apollo. What do you think about it? How have you been playing against it and using it?
Yeah, I've used it a lot less than I've played against it. I've used it positionally to know that Zerg is coming to attack me very soon with either their Ravagers and Lings or Hydras, and I know where they're going to attack. So it's always a third. So it's good to use it that way to cut the army in half. So it's like a new style force field, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it's really good to do that. Played against, it's very frustrating. It's very, very annoying to deal with. But I love it. I mean, at the same time, as much as it's annoying, it's a cool, as you said, new ability added into the game. Yeah. I don't think it's too strong. I don't think it's weak. I think it's fine.
Could you see? Let's see, because I think it definitely is a. I think I just saw someone say Overseer in the chat. You could definitely see people, sending Overseers to patrol around trying to find these little stasis wards. It gives, the Zerg an advantage because Terran can't really do that. You could create a Raven, but that's really expensive. And maybe create a Raven and drop down, what do you call it, auto turrets? That could be a way to go against them.
The thing, you can see them when they're there. Mm-hmm. It's just like a standing still DT.
Right, yeah. Now, what I found is when I know that I'm playing against them, I'll send a Marine, ahead of the pack when they're walking. But a smart, if I'm not watching for that stasis ward, though, and I'm not there to see the thing, you're not necessarily safe because...
It's just a fun aspect, man. It's like board banelings. Everyone loves board banelings because it's something that is so simple but can do so much, and that's a status field.
Yep. Nathanias, so you played against it? What do you think as Terran?
Dude, I fucking played with it. I love it, man. I've played some sick PVTs. I love opening with Oracle if I can find a way in like the mid game because when I play, like most of my experience with them is when I'm playing Protoss because when I play TVP, I don't know, people don't seem to use it. Mm-hmm. But versus like mech players, it's really nice. Just put them as spotters on non-main pathways, and then you can have your observer kind of like tucked away somewhere more difficult to see that watches like the main path or the watchtower. So I really like stasis wards for catching anything like run-bys. I think most Terrans that I use them against scan ahead of the main army once they know I have them. So they're just better off being in places where a Terran generally isn't going to look around to scan for. But I think they're cool. I like them. Yeah. I like stasis wards a lot, actually.
Yeah. CatZ, what are your thoughts on the unit?
Yeah, I like it as well. I think it's a little bit unexplored, mainly because of how weak Protoss is early game. It's hard to say how the mid-game stuff works out and how powerful it really is. So it could be really strong. I mean, if you think about it, like a stasis into a well-timed storm or a well-timed disruptor.
Oh yeah.
There you learn, man. That's sick. Disruptor, man. You're never gonna forget that.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I'll forget it. Like.
No, you're right. The timings that you can create are gonna be sick.
I like
Go on.
Oh, I like that you can use it right away, right? Like as soon as you get the Stargate, like I played Carbot on the ladder, and instead of attacking me, because I scouted his Stargate, instead of attacking me, I didn't know this, but he put his stasis ward at his ramp, and I think it was on Echo. I can't remember, but it was on one of those, the 2-player maps, and I had a very strong bio push that had he not put that stasis ward down, my full army could have just blown him apart. So really early game, I think it's definitely fun
cool.
as a defensive maneuver.
And these type of moments are great for casting and great for events,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true.
I really like that you brought up that example, because it reminded me of there was something that I thought was interesting, was just when during like the Fragbite matches, seeing Protoss like use the adepts. Like you don't use the shadow to harass, you use it as like a recall.
Escape.
Yeah, like they throw the shadow out, and like cool little things like that where it's like, oh, is he barely gonna make it to escape, rather than like he's gonna lose it if he sends it inside the base. I really like that, and I especially like you bringing that up because it's another way for Protoss players, if they don't like dealing with drops, blah 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 blah. If you open with that Oracle, or if you, I guess assuming that the Cyclone gets changed at some point where opening Oracle isn't suicide, putting in your own base where someone would drop or go to try to cut off an important position. I think that's so fucking cool, because it's something that, had you not mentioned that, I don't think is something any of us, I haven't thought about using them in your own base to catch a big drop, or someone who tries to do a run by. Like that's a really smart way to use it that I haven't seen at all yet.
Yeah, so actually this guy in chat just brought this up, and Carbot also used it to block my third base. So he put a stasis ward down, he disabled it so it didn't auto trigger, and I actually had to waste a scan to put that there. And
that's pretty clever.
Right, and that what he could have done, I don't think he did it, but what he could have done is, as soon as he saw I was trying to kill it, because it takes a second, he could have detonated it, and then I would have been blocked an additional 21 seconds.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a, God, I know I'm.
It's really cool. I want to.
It's a unit with and ability with a lot of potential. But again, I think it's too early to say if it's too good or not good enough or anything like that, because we haven't played around.
I want to see it. I want to see it more.
Yeah, so they need to fix the early game. They have to fix the early game for Protoss to judge the mid game.
Protoss has to be able to reach that point, and then we can see
in a comfortable position. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Go ahead, CatZ.
Yeah, I remembered what I was gonna say. I think I just forgot, but I'm sure it'll come back to me in the next seconds. Okay. Dude,
I forgot twice.
All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just in the same line of thought as that I was bringing earlier with the transitions. I think that I'm kind of worried that the game will become stale in its own way, even though it's a very trade intensive game, even though there's going to be fights going on all the time. I'm scared of how difficult it is to transition, because there's not, in my opinion, going to be as much variety in armies. For example, for a CVP, for example, because there are units like the Cyclone, like the Ravager, that are so well rounded, and they're so low tech and so easy to get. It's really difficult to transition into the other units, and I think that in its own way could make the game kind of boring, and could make the game kind of look the same every time. So yeah, that's something that I wanted to touch on as well, I guess.
I like to think that, though I've thought about that, because it could still keep playing out kind of the same way, just the way you're describing. And I think what might change that up is if the game is designed in a way that allows a lot of versatility in your decisions. So, the meta games can't be so cut and dry, like Hellbat openers, Hellbat Banshee kind of thing in TVZ and HOTS, where that becomes like the most powerful, and there's really very little reason to not do that on certain maps. If Legacy of the Void, both map design and game design make it so that you have about 5 different options that you could go for, actual viable options, not just, I could either go DT cheese or I could go Oracle cheese or something like that. But no, I have a bunch of different opening games, and my opponent has a bunch of different ways to counter, because we don't have those hard counters.
And that's where we go back to square one, and we talk about how shitty the sentry design is with force shields, right? Because that's what makes it so that you can't create certain maps and force out different play,
Mm-hmm. And Protoss relies so heavily on force field, you'd probably have to do a lot of work on Protoss itself.
Yeah, so it's a difficult subject. And again, I would like to go back to something I said earlier as well. I wouldn't mind it if Blizzard was really fucking drastic and took a page from the Dota book with their patches and just completely changed the game around every few months. just to keep it fresh and to keep people interested. Like, you always see the meta shifting in Dota, like what heroes are being picked and what heroes are not, and that's both because of how the game works, like in a certain patch, and that they're constantly tweaking around the heroes. Having said that, balancing Dota is a lot easier because it practically balances itself with the picks and bans, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't mind sacrificing balance for periods of time, as long as there's going to be something, a new change to be expected next time around.
Right.
I think it would keep the game a lot easier to watch and a little bit more exciting for players to play as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely a good thought, and I hope that they take. I think Apollo, you might have said this. I hope they take good advantage of this being a beta, and make those drastic changes now while they definitely can, while no one's career is riding on these games, to definitely look into that, while trying to also balance the game that they're designing just in general.
And I'd like to add in here that we're talking like this whole discussion about Legacy of the Void. Like it's an important discussion to have. But you think about all the different things that we've discussed and all the different things that we want to have tested or changed or looked at by Blizzard. And then we remember that they've already said they're working on the stuff like the ladder. Yeah. And we don't know if the BattleNet interface is going to change. We don't know if we haven't heard yet, they haven't gotten back to us about things like skins or, better ways to interact or having
it's usually just
in-client stream viewing. So all these things comes back to, once again, if we want in-game changes, those are actually the easiest for us to create data for Blizzard to look at.
Yep.
Like, we don't obviously have to make a test map where disruptors have a little bit more expensive or whatever, but for big stuff, for like big sweeping things, that's another reason why I think it's very important that we try to give Blizzard as much good data to look at as possible, because they're investing their time into potentially other things. Like, there's no way someone's going to come up with like a mock-up for how BNet should look and they're going to take it, because it's not possible for us to gauge and gather data for them prior to that. So just trying to make sure, anyone watching keeps that in mind.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we're asking for a lot, but this is the right time to ask for change. So I just, if anything, and stressing on this, and I think we all agree on this, and everyone watching would agree on this, and hopefully Blizzard agrees with this, but they really need to keep the communication channels a little bit more clear and a little bit more open. Mm-hmm. And even if something cannot be done and cannot be implemented, we need to know why, just so that we know to keep giving feedback, so we know that we're being heard, and so we know the reasoning for which our ideas are being shut down. If it's not enough resources, hey, like, we're with you, like the whatever the StarCraft team is at Blizzard. Like, if you don't have enough people, then that sucks for all of us. It sucks for you guys at Blizzard, and it sucks for everyone involved. But if there's nothing we can do, then we can at least discuss on what to prioritize, mm-hmm. And what can be done with the people that we do have available to us, right?
Absolutely.
It just happens too often that Blizzard just says, here's the new thing, let us know how you like it, and there hasn't been any. And it's like, and it happens also too often that I look at it and I'm like, well, that looks like shit. And if you guys had talked to pro gamers or to community figures or listened to the community or opened any sort of communication, if you had gone on a show or at least explained why a different approach is not better, then yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So, Widow Mines, right? That's been a point of contention for a lot of Protoss for a long time, but we haven't heard a lot about it because it's not at the forefront of Protoss's mind, because that Cyclone, it seems to be hitting their bases a lot more in Legacy than the Widow Mines. I like that they added in the targeting icon, the targeting animation, and I feel that the complaint against the Widow Mines taking out a bunch of probes in the mineral line, you can now say, okay, well, now you can counter micro. Now you know which probe to move. You have that 1.5 seconds. Once the mine is planted, you can grab the probe and move them out of the way. So Apollo, you play it. Is Protoss your main? Am I correct in that?
I've played everything in the beta. I've played a lot, actually.
Okay, so would you say that that's a good way to look at it? Is that they're don't necessarily need nerf it because you can counter micro it now that you know what it's going to target.
Yeah, I think the Widowmine's fine. Like, no one complains about it, no one mentions it. It's just a small little addition to what it was before.
All right. Nathanias, do you have any thoughts on the Widowmine change? Like, do you like it, dislike it?
I mean, it's good as like a quality of life change for the game, but I don't have thoughts on the Widowmine. But for Legacy of the Void, the problem is stuff like Widowmines and to an extent like Hellbats, at least from the Terran side of things. No one's going to be looking into them. There's nobody, as far as I know, that's doing research onto how effective Banelings are, because we're all fucking around with Ravagers and Cyclones and Disruptors. Like, I'm not opposed to looking at the Widowmine for Heart of the Swarm, because I still think that against Protoss it does a bit much and cuts down options. But like how it impacts Void, like we need a lot more people playing the game long enough to establish a scenario where yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? If until the Cyclone gets dialed back a little bit, honestly, there's no reason not to play Cyclone Hellion into Cyclone Hellbat every game versus Protoss, which is one of the reasons why we don't have Protoss tests going through, because every Protoss is opening up mass Gateway Blink because it's the only way to deal with Cyclone builds. So, like, you just like the whole thing's kind of fucked. I don't have any thoughts on the Widowmine at this point in time.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see though, like the theorycraft about if you did have just the Widowmine in Heart of the Swarm, and then to see Banelings being split. Now you know that they're being individually targeted, and you can see that.
I think
that
it's better for
why not?
Yeah, I think it's better for I think it's better for casters and spectators for that one special moment where you are actually able to dedicate.
Just imagine Jadong's flood coming through, and you see one Baneling come down, and another one comes down, and he's just like individually splitting all these Banelings off as the Widowmines target in.
Exactly, because 90% of the time it will do the same thing as always, and then there'll be like that 5-10% where it's just great to watch more than anything. So
well, then I'm not in that group, so if you guys want to throw that suggestion in the group, that would be awesome. I could definitely see that being an easy to implement thing in a new patch. But that's the end of the list for the units that I had written down to discuss. Before we go into the balance changes that were made, do any of you guys have a specific unit or something you wanted to talk about?
I guess the lurker change is nice, but it's not really something to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Well, kind of is. It might be overpowered, but I'm not sure. Like I was talking about how the lurker was kind of shit and it was too hard to get, but the added 2 range might be too much. It's pretty nuts because now you can siege like bunkers and PFs and cannons without hive. So as much as I was saying like the lurker is too tedious to get to, I wasn't saying the lurker was underpowered as much as I was saying it didn't have a place in the game. And now it might be worth getting, but it might also be too strong. So I'm not sure. I mean, we'll have to test, but yeah.
All right, so that was one of the big changes. For those who don't know, I have it up on the screen. The lurkers now have 9 range upgrade, or I'm sorry, the range is just permanently upgraded. The upgrade is removed, and I guess the attack is more responsive right after burrowing. I, as a Terran, absolutely hate the lurker. I didn't play Brood War, but I assumed that I would have hated it in Brood War too. Because this is
right now, from what I've been told as well in Zerg vs Terran, another reason not only because Cyclones are so good, but trying to play bio against lurkers, and now they've been increased in their range is very difficult to play against. Like Stefano against bio right now, he's abusing lurkers, putting them in pairs around the map on top of ramps and
they're good late game against mech as well. It's one of the only ways that I've found you can contest mech armies. And mech now being so mobile, actually that's a really fun game to play. I think it favors Terran, but it's really fucking fun to play.
See, I don't like from a Terran perspective, I don't like abusing. Like I try to not use the Cyclone anymore unless it's a 2-player versus Protoss, and I really still like to get the Mothership Core. But otherwise, I like to do the heavy bio and to use that. So I haven't been playing mech against Zerg because I don't want to go into that really overpowered state. But maybe that's what I need to do to enjoy the game a little more.
It's hard to say if it's overpowered. I think that the late game is better for Terran. I think that the orbital commands and the way we take bases is pretty good for Terran. I think that their units are more cost efficient. But I think it's exploitable too, and it's a really fun matchup regardless. So I think that there wouldn't be much tweaking to be done, and Zerg is still stronger in the early and mid game, in my opinion. So I don't know. CVT is a really fun matchup, I think, right now.
Okay. Terran changed. They moved the lockdown range from 15 to 12, but then the upgrade will increase it up to 15. Protoss, we got a lot of changes. The Adept, the health.
Wait, I just said stronger in the early and mid game, and that's not actually what I think. I'm not sure why I said that. I meant like if you go for a timing attack or an all-in type play in the mid game, that's really strong. Oh. The mid game in itself, the transitions into the late game are not, in my opinion.
Gotcha. All right, so Protoss Adept health changed from 80-60 to 90-90. Upgrade changed to a health upgrade instead of providing bounce damage. So does that mean it doesn't do the bounce anymore?
No, it's changed, switched out.
Okay. The upgrade now adds 50 shields to the Adept.
Where's the upgrade?
Twilight Council.
Twilight Council.
Yeah. It's I feel like it's I understand the reason behind this new change is because the Adept is pretty weak and shitty. Changing out for the splashy thing, whatever it is, the double bounce, is weird, and I don't see any purpose. I feel it's just been nerfed now because no one's gonna get this fucking upgrade.
Wait, the Adept, its starting HP without an upgrade was increased as well, though, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
90 shield, 90 HP.
That's pretty huge.
Wait, what's the difference?
80-60 to 90-90.
That I think that's pretty.
Okay, okay, that's pretty big.
Yeah, that's pretty significant, and this is the type of thing that completely shifts the meta once again. So this could work, but not work in a good way per se. Like for example, what I was saying with the one base Ravager, right? Like once a lot of people start doing that, then Terran is more likely or less likely, I should say, to go for a very fast CC because now they have to account for that build. The same goes for Zerg with the Adept, and Kiwi Kaki was already doing 4-gate Adept builds.
It is
and
Adept builds, man.
Yeah, they're incredibly hard to stop if you don't go Roach, right? So that's what I was saying. Like it might help the matchup in the way that it will force out Roaches once a lot of people start doing that. And that's a more expensive way to open because you need the gas, you need the Roach run, etc., etc. So it slows down the Zerg going into the mid game. But at the same time, it might force a more stale approach because you will pretty much have to open like 2 base Roaches. So unless you want to take a huge risk that they're not doing it or not scouting, and then you can go 3 heads before bull or something like that. And yeah.
Okay. Immortal barrier now absorbs 200 up from 100.
So yeah, I don't like the changes. What I was trying to say.
So you don't think that it? So when you say you don't like the change, you think that it's the wrong direction to go?
Yes, I think that the Adept is a shed unit. Don't get me wrong. I just think that placing a buff on it will have an effect on the meta. That's probably not what they intended. I think that buffing the what is it called?
The bounce.
Exploding circle thingy.
Dude, come on, man. Disrupt it.
I think that's a bit more a bit better. It's more of a transitional unit.
So here's one thing I like is first of all that most of these changes seem to be buffs to these units instead of I see very few nerfs. One thing I like the idea that people seem to be saying, I don't know if Blizzard actually came out and said this, but the rhetoric seems to be that Blizzard is making these things stronger. They want powerful units to be going against each other instead of trying to counterbalance by making things weaker. And I like that. Approach. Yeah. I like that. And also, realize we are exactly 2 weeks into this beta, and they've just released a patch. So if they're going to be doing this kind of frequent patching, if this is the trend we see every 2 weeks, there's something new out, that could be a good thing. So while, at the moment, we don't like this and we're looking at it and it's kind of like, oh, what's it going to be? I like that we're doing this frequently, though. So if it is a bad decision, it shouldn't be too bad for too long.
Yeah, but we could avoid the bad patches if there was a line of communication. I want to reiterate. Like, again, for example, I don't think that the Adept is a good change, and I just explained why. So I would like for David Kim or like someone else on the team to be like, oh no, that's not what we intended. This is why we're doing it,
right.
And like this is why your idea wouldn't work as well. And I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or argue for my idea and be like, maybe we should like look more into this or ask other people, or multiple people in the chat what they think.
I agree. And one thing I haven't talked to him about it, but I think it would be really good is Jack Attack is continuing to manage the mod for Legacy of the Void for those who don't get into the beta. But I would think it would be really cool is if Jack Attack came into the fold of this group and made another mod, and this mod was to do the balance changes that you guys talk about, so that we could have the show matches and we could test these things out, ourselves, faster than Blizzard is going to, react or want to try them out.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but again, ideally, like, we can avoid things that like seem obviously bad from ever making it into a patch in the first place.
Right. No, I can definitely agree.
And that speeds up the process and makes everyone happy.
Yep. And guys, I have invited some Blizz people to the show, so just know that that invite is always open for them. They don't need me to invite them. If they decide they want to come on, they're more than welcome to. Real quick, we're gonna wrap up the show with questions, but first let's go over the other changes they made. Thank God, tanks can now get out of my base on Coda and Cactus Valley. That is really annoying to have those tanks rallied out and not have them come to my army.
It was probably on purpose, just so you medivacs and drop them.
It was just like disruptors not being able to fit out of Protoss walls, just like that. Build a war prism because you don't want to move them out normally.
Well, from the looks of it, the barracks was kind of overlapping the supply depot, like the foot of the barracks. So I don't know if that's how they changed it. I'll take a look at it. I haven't loaded it up since the patch.
There was somewhere to do that. I don't think the rest of these bug fixes are too interesting, but there is the only other thing that I noticed is like fucking add-ons. If you try to build add-ons and there's units blocking, your barracks just lift the fuck off for no reason.
Oh no!
That one wasn't fixed yet.
No, wait. It doesn't need to be anything blocking. It lifts it as if something is blocking, but I tested it. If you literally have two barracks, nothing around, if you have two barracks and the first, like, so you have your hotkey, right? And you have the first barracks in the hotkey building something, and then you hit X, it will, if you watch those barracks, it will start to try to build the add-on onto the first barracks, but the second one lifts up as if something's in the way. But there's nothing there. It makes no sense.
I noticed, and I don't know if this is the reason why this bug occurs, but I noticed that at least for Terran, maybe this also happens for other races, but Terran's the race that usually queues shit. Like if you try to build like an orbital command or something, or you try to like, I'm trying to think where exactly it goes, but if you try to like queue an action on a building that's not finished transforming or something like that, it'll make the sound as if the command's going through, whereas in Heart of the Swarm, like it just doesn't receive the command. So maybe maybe the problem is both buildings receive the command as if you can do it, and the fact that only one of them can't do it causes both of them to act as if they can't. I don't know. There's just some weird shit with the queuing stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely some weird crap. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up with the questions. I want to, right before we're even done, I want to thank these guys for sticking around. We had a long show, but a lot of good discussion. Definitely some really good discussions, in particular the stuff regarding changes in Blizzard and all that. Okay, Apollo, this first question's for you. No one asked it, but someone asked it last week, and I figured we have you on now. We might as well. Red Eye is gone from ESL. To say, are you going to fill his shoes is kind of disingenuous because you're a different, you have a different charm about yourself, a different style. You'd be a completely different host. So, is hosting with ESL something that you're moving towards? Are you moving away from casting to go into that permanent host position?
No, is the easy answer. I did it at this last event just because it made sense, but it's not something I'm looking to make a full move with for sure.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, you're definitely one of the best casters, and it'd be kind of sad to have you step away from that and just go to the stage. But let's see what else we got here. All right, so is there? We already talked about the Pinnacle bet. Okay. What do you think Legacy of the Void will be like for lower league players who may not have the skill to keep up with the increased levels of micro multitasking that Legacy of the Void will demand? Will it be the same kind of adapt or die scenario? Nathanias,
yes.
Or Apollo, yeah?
Yes, play Arkham mode. Sorry, Nate, I stole your question.
Wait, what was the question again anyway?
What do you think about Legacy of the Void for low league players who may not have the skill to keep up with the increased levels of micro and multitasking that the game will demand?
That's why Archon mode was put in, yeah.
It's StarCraft. It's a hard game. Like
StarCraft is a difficult game, and it's a very lonely game. Okay, no one likes to be in the corner by themselves trying to turn water into wine. So if you have two people there, at least they can yell at each other and think that they're not as bad as they are. That's like that's like the harsh reality of it. You're less likely to get demotivated because you have another excuse you can make. So you continue to work at it.
Right, and I think at the same time, you're still going to have a ladder. You're still going to have,
Yeah, it's very clear just based on the way that it's set up in the interface that they are going to have a ladder for Archon mode. So,
and not even just that. Like if you're in 1v1, not Archon mode, you're still gonna. There's still going to be levels of skill. You'll still have the bronze, platinum, silver, whatever levels of skill. So there isn't going to be, it's not necessarily that there's only going to be either the elite players and then everyone else. There's still going to be that level, system of, where you stand.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is to play Archon mode, but for sure, people will find it difficult. And I'm pretty sure once the mass start getting into Legacy of the Void, they will notice it too. Because I notice it when I play. I'm like, holy crap, why am I mining out stuff? I got to expand. And I notice it, and it's physically demanding when you play. And
it's very
even
difficult.
the gamers are experiencing this too. And I guarantee on Reddit, on Team Liquid, that this will be one of the first things actually, is this change really good for the game? I'm mining out before I even take my second base properly. Stuff like this will come out.
Yeah. Thoughts on the new ladder season? Lots of players are saying that after their first placement matches, they are being put in leagues way lower than what they were before. It seems I haven't seen anything other than Sion's post saying, hey, we've done some stuff, we want to see how it works out. But I think they did.
The funny thing about that is this time it's for real, but that's what, that's probably what you claim every time. You're high platinum, low diamond.
I swear I'm not always here.
I placed plat, so I was just happy I didn't get a demotion. But I'm waiting for everyone else to really get back to their original league so I can maybe get diamond this time.
It's a little sad that this has not been sorted out over the years, because I know, and back when I used to coach people a long time ago, when I put time into that, people loved everything about their league and their rank in that league. And then when you're messing around with the system and all of a sudden this guy who worked his ass off to get into gold leagues now thrown back into silver for no real reason. Mm-hmm. It's I wish it wasn't the case.
I think that, so they did say that they were making it easier to get out. So I assume that this was a reset. It's how they had that issue and they found this to be the easiest way. And everyone's going to quickly get back to where they should be. Hopefully.
Growing pains.
Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully that we don't have to repeat this.
I'm more interested on the impact this has on all the people that try to just place every season now that MMR decay is removed. I think we'll have a slightly more active ladder season once people all realize that they're not going to be able to play one game to get put back into Masters or whatever.
Do you think that's what this is going to be? You think this is a permanent change, Nathanias? This is how they're going to do it in the future?
I don't think it's going to happen every season. I think they made a couple of big changes. In Sion's post, they said that, once they confirm that they haven't completely fucked everything, then they'll let us know what they changed, which is basically what the post said.
Okay. And now, hey, if they did this, I avoid the first week of ladder as much as possible anyway, because everyone tries to cheese, because they think, this is the season they're going to get it. Last season I was really close. So I avoid the first week of ladder anyway, but I guess we'll see what comes from it. Not many questions this week, which is good because this was a long show. We talked about the voided bets. All right, CatZ, this one's for you.
All right.
Prior to Prior to Heart of the Swarm release, you posted a lot on StarCraft 2 Reddit about how the current Reaper, post-Vision nerf, would be massively overpowered and ruin the game. Now that Blizzard appears to be listening to the community more, do you think top influential foreigners like yourself should be more cautious with the balance winding and Legacy of the Void? So
I don't think so.
This is a funny question.
I always try to filter out the troll parts of questions.
The problem of the Reaper, and I mentioned that even now, is that the design of the unit feels wrong to me. When one player can do the microing and it's entirely reliant on his micro and not so much the micro of the other player that has to just minimize damage, I think that's bad unit design. I mean, there are maps, and you can create maps. Like, for example, in Catalina, there's no mistake. 3 Reaper openers are extremely powerful. If you don't scout 888 Reaper, it's still almost impossible to hold if you're going hatch first. So, yeah, it's just crappy design for a unit, and of course not. No, if anyone's gonna balance wine, it should be the people that understand the game best, and I think I'm one of those people.
All right. Do either of you guys, Nathanias, Paula, have something on that before I move on?
No, it's good to voice.
People should never be afraid to discuss their opinions publicly, because otherwise people won't point out the obvious flaws in what they're saying and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
It's fun. I just like that I like your way of describing it, because that's how I feel playing versus oracles.
All right, Apollo, the WCS final casting team was a group of pretty skinny white boys. Oh, fuck, never mind. Apollo, the base trade. All right, I did like, it's from the same person, but I actually like this one because I like base trade TV. I work with them for the Lycan League, and I always wonder why they don't get more because of the amount of work they do, and they do put on a lot of quality work. Apollo, the base trade TV cast of WCS qualifiers reached 11K viewers the other day. What is the opinion of base trade's product within WCS? What do you think they should improve?
What should they improve?
Yes.
That's a difficult question. Because I don't think they need to improve on that much. They fill the role that they're meant to fill in the community.
So let's assume that, and this is not like no one's
I
asking.
mean, what are they improving towards?
Well, so what if they wanted to do more? What if they wanted to be a WCS caster, like outside of just the qualifiers? What if they wanted to come, they wanted to be casting main events kind of thing?
The thing is like, this isn't even a WCS question. This is just like a them casting big events question. More so, the way I'm reading it. Base trade casting big events is very difficult for any big organization to bring them on because they have no experience on these big events. And I know that the good old argument is, well, they need to finally get experience. But when you are a DreamHack or an ESL or a Blizzard and you already have a talent pool out there which has years of experience now and you've already got a working relationship with them, there's no reason to change. And if you do change, it's just running a risk for maybe no necessary gain. And that's the majority of the reason for not just base trade, but for anyone trying to break in to be a caster.
So they're talking. There's no definitive but if all goes according to plan, they're going to host a live event. They're going to organize it. They're going to host it. I assume they're going to cast it. Would that be something that if that goes off amazingly, that could open those doors for them?
Potentially. I think the one way to look at it is think of WCS just passed. Do you think Rifkin and Zombie Grub fit into the show? Do you see them on the desk participating in discussions that we have there? Do you see them casting? And if you think yes, then maybe they can.
I could absolutely there's I think there definitely is a synergy. I don't know about a desk, but I could definitely see them casting. They have a good synergy. I enjoy their casts, and I think that
let me weigh in here because I mean, you gotta understand from the perspective of ESL or someone like Apollo, right? I love Rifkin to death and Zombie Grab. They're great. They're super entertaining. Their cast is also super casual, and that's part of their appeal, right? So you have to take these things into account when you're thinking of a larger event. One of their biggest strengths is their consistency as well, right? But are they really analysts? Not really, right? Like their game knowledge isn't particularly amazing. They're still what I watch. It's entertaining as hell. I really like watching them on their stream. I would really like it if they made their own event. I think they would fit more in a place where Home Story Cup, Seed Story Cup kind of thing, right? Where it's a little bit more laid back. So. Yeah, just playing devil's advocate a little bit because I don't think the question is fair to.
No, I understand it. And
to ask.
I do want to say
someone like Apollo or ESL or any organization. You can't just put them on the spot like that.
No,
they have the reasons that you have to understand that.
Yeah. I think that they fill the role they are meant to fill. I think is the best way to describe it.
and they are perhaps the most important piece.
Yeah, they're so
StarCraft
important.
puzzle.
Like
they're like, yeah, they're absolutely vital to StarCraft. So it's like not undermining them by any means. Like I not only respect them, I admire them, but you have to look at it from different angles.
Yeah. In all like 100% seriousness,
it's
base trade TV existing as they are is incredibly important to the health of the StarCraft community in general, because you have content that's delivered.
It's our glue, dude. It's like without base trade,
you have a couple of things that actually I'll just say it, that no other community cast that's ever been around can deliver. You have all of the good things about a community cast together with so you have a consistent product. You go to the stream, you know that regardless of whether or not you like Rifkin or Zombie Grub's commentary, like, you know that you can always go there to watch whatever is relevant. There's new stuff constantly being put on. The stream quality is always good. If you're the kind of person that likes Twitch communities, their chat system, the Partoofs, the everything is really, really sweet for someone that's a regular viewer. And like Apollo said, they're very consistent. You know, like you don't become a part of the base trade family and then you're like, well, you know, like Rifkin and Zombie Grub haven't been live in like a week. It's like, no, they're always putting some shit on, whether it's from their own money that they make or they're doing the B streams. And I think from a tournament perspective, you're not going to get anybody that can run a B stream better than base trade TV. You're not going to like all the other people that do like B streams. You have like, okay, like maybe Caldor does B streams, but you know, his PC setup isn't quite as good. You don't have quite the community behind the chat. And we, at least looking at it, and the same thing also applies to a lot of other people who very rarely do B streams, and that they don't have the following of base trade TV because of that consistent product. If you ask anyone else, like maybe they're a good commentator, you know, like maybe you're like, Roddy and Nate, or like we'll do like B streams because we kind of do that stuff every now and again. But we're not going to pull the same viewers as base trade because the people that follow base trade know what they're signing up for.
Yeah, they know what to expect. They know where they're going.
They know what to expect, and they know that it's, you know, at least it often enough meets their expectations that will always be the first place that people are going to check for online streams these days, unless for the A stream.
Yeah. Yep. And I don't think they can ever make that jump unless they change drastically, and then they change what they're meant to do in the role.
Which could hurt them a lot more than
Which hurts them. If they try to make the push for a big WCS, a DreamHack, an IEM or whatever, then it just completely changes around. Yeah. The way that I could see them work in their way into a big event like that is sometimes these events can't get full coverage of the games. And what could work is that no longer do they do that on the internet. They can work together with the event to have their own stream on site and cover as a B stream on site.
Kind of like Red Bull did with Action
right.
Toss.
That would be like the better way to work them into a big event.
Okay. You know, and just to clarify, you know, the question was directed at you from the person who asked it, and I believe that was just because of your affiliation with WCS and ESL and all that stuff. But I'm definitely glad you all weighed in on that. And my opinion is I can agree with you on focusing on, you know, trying to go for the WCS or the higher level stuff that could definitely potentially hurt them. And I think that this upcoming event from theirs could definitely be what allows them to not fully divert from their current, you know, place in the community, but give the eyes of, you know, ESL, DreamHack, and other organizations, you know, a view of that. So
it'll still be a community feel event, right? Like it's the same thing goes for Take, for example. I couldn't imagine Take just fucking around somewhere else, like other than his apartment, you know. It's just a field, man. And I don't think there's much more to be said about that. Right. But one thing is, like, everyone should be super fucking grateful to them, because like without base trade, like, we're much fucking worse off.
Absolutely. I love you guys. I know they're watching. All right, Nathanias, this one's directed to you. Where do you see yourself in a year from now? Do you want to follow Red Eye's path to casting and hosting, or are you interested in production?
Yeah, I'm more interested in streaming, man. Twitch is so fucking big. Goddamn. CatZ, I sent a fucking typo yesterday. Anyway, I think I would like to work on my stream, man. Twitch has just been, it's like, anybody that's been following me knows that the last couple months, like the very last month, because I was doing so much casting work, was the first time I realized I actually felt like casting hurt me quite a bit. because it really fucked up with my stream schedule and my consistency.
Mm-hmm.
But the freedom of being able to work like that, I would ideally next year still be doing what I do, but I would not add a lot. I wouldn't add much as far as events go. I would just try to work on my stream product and keep it consistent, because honestly, it's way less stressful, and I have a lot of fun streaming, and it pays the bills if you do it enough. So I'm more on that side of things. I don't know about tying myself down unless something really crazy came up.
Okay. Well, that wraps up the questions. That also wraps us up at 4 hours of just under 2 minutes under 4 hours of streaming. So,
fuck, man, I had something to say and I forgot. Thanks, Lycan.
Well, we'll do the goodbyes, and if you think about it, we can do it. Or do you remember it?
No.
Okay. So we're
mad cow disease.
We are going to wrap this up with the goodbyes, but before, huge thank you to all you guys. First of all, for the putting in the time. Anytime you guys could have tapped out, and you kept going through, and I really appreciate that. So
we could have. You did.
You motherfucker!
He says that at the end of the show. You guys could have tapped out. Yes, could have tapped out. I didn't know this.
Well, thank you guys. Hey, you did tap out for a little bit. You smacked your computer and disappeared.
That is true. Literally tapped out.
Rob tapped him out. The ref came in on that one.
Oh, Apollo, thank you for coming. Your first time on the show. Really appreciate it. You want to tell people anything going on with you in the future, where they can find you?
Not too much stuff. I guess you got the WCS Challenger selection for both Europe and America on Monday afternoon European time, and then the first Challenger match is on the 27th.
Awesome. Nathanias, this is your first time. Oh wait, I'm sorry. You have social media.
Oh my, yeah. Oh, is this part where I play?
No, Apollo. Social media, Twitter, Twitch.
Yeah. I guess I have Twitter, Apollo SC2.
You've been streaming too, right?
Apollo SC2 on Twitch.
All right, got the full spectrum there. Nathanias, thank you for coming. Glad to have you first time as well. What's going on with you in the future, and where can people find you?
I want to say thanks for having me on, because most people probably don't know that it's been like really, really bad luck that you've tried to get me on a few times, but my it's not like I turned you down. My schedule like fucked me in a lot of different days.
Fully understand.
It's funny that this is my first time, but
I spoke to your secretary, and I was kind of happy that you finally got on.
Yeah, well, it was difficult to get it put through the PR department, but I'm gonna be streaming regularly now. I'm back in the US for the first time since March 2nd. You can check me out on twitch.tv/Nathanias. I'm going to be going through, I do a lot of random stuff these days, but I'll be, doing show matches and casting more shit. You'll be seeing me do an Econ mod tournament within the next week on Zero Mess's proposed double harvesting changes. So I'll be all over the place. And follow me on Twitter @NathaniasTV.
Awesome.
And shout out to your team.
Shout out to my team, Root Gaming. Some of the most handsome men in all of esports, including WCS second place finisher Hydra, who has the best hair of all Koreans playing outside of Korea.
I disagree.
Best hair out of all Koreans in the Root House.
I agree.
Well, yeah.
All right, CatZ, thank you for coming on this year. Glad to have you back. We had you on the first episode. What's going on in your world, and where can people find you?
You can find me at RootCatz on Twitter. You can find me at twitch.tv/RootCatz. I've been streaming a lot more recently. I'm really enjoying Legacy of the Void. Of course, I don't know if it seems like I've been enjoying it after this episode, but I want to try and make as much of a difference as possible, or at least raise these concerns now, because now is the time. But the game is fucking amazing. I really enjoy it. I'm streaming it quite often, and I'm commentating a lot. So do check out my stream. Give me a follow on Twitter. And other than that, I've just been doing my shit, managing my team right now. I've been juggling between doing this, and whenever the question wasn't for me, I'm watching my Dota team. They're playing on the Beyond the Summit stream. So if you want to stop by and cheer for them, we're getting pretty close to qualifying for Red Bull Battlegrounds, which would be pretty cool.
Awesome. When is the Red Bull Battlegrounds for Dota?
Oh fuck, I don't know. It's in San Francisco.
A live event for Battlegrounds Dota.
Yeah, it's May or
That's
June.
Early,
I think
it's early. I think the dates are out. I'm pretty sure it's in May.
Yeah, the dates are out. I can't remember, but I'm excited. I'll be rooting for Root since I don't have a Dota team.
Well, we're not quite there, but you know we're on our way. We took already the favorites to advance from this qualifier, so we can do it.
Awesome. Good luck, guys.
We're breaking racks as we speak, dude.
I want to say again a huge thank you to the guests for coming on, Apollo, CatZ, Nathanias. I hope to have you guys on again soon. I want to give a shout out to Base Trade TV. We talked about them for a little bit. They do the Lycan League with me. Literally could not be as good of a product as it is without them. And a huge thank you to Rifkin, Zombie Grub, and Suede, best admin world. He helps a lot in the back end. There are 2 Lycan Leagues left, right? There's the 20th and 21st. The 20th is a normal Lycan League 1v1. The 21st is an Archon mode. And check this out, right? Everyone who advances in the Archon mode, both players get points, right? So
nice.
You and someone else go Archon mode. You can carry someone, and there are 16 slots for the final. So go sign up. I'm linking the stuff right now in chat. So, check those out. And if you find someone to sign up with for the Archon mode, definitely do it. It's going to be really big, and then those qualify for the $600 finals. So, yeah, just sign up, and it's going to be good times. Let's see. Nice username. He cuts up the VODs. You've been noticing that I've had the VODs uploaded every week for the last, 4 weeks now. That's because Nice Username helps me out with that, and I really appreciate him doing that. Oh, are any of you guys streaming tonight? Right after the show?
I probably am, but not right after the show.
Not right after. I have to do some stuff.
Okay, well then I'm gonna after this I'll look at see who's streaming, and we'll figure it out. So once we say goodbye, I'll run a commercial, and then I'll come back and we'll figure that out. But otherwise, that's really all I have. So thank you all for coming to the show. Oh, you can follow me at LycanGTV on Twitter. It makes me very happy when I get Twitter followers. So if you have Twitter, the button down below, please click that. But anyway, that's it. Apollo, CatZ, Nathanias, thank you. I'm Lycan. Everyone, you have a good night. We'll see you next time.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Wait. Since we're thanking people, thank you, Lycan, because you also do a lot for the community out of your own time and pocket, and should be thanked. So.
Oh, thank you, CatZ. That makes up for the platinum harassment.
Does it? Doesn't make you any better at the game.
If money could buy skill, I might at least be diamond.
Yeah. I beat a plat player with one hand the other day. Won $50 off of it. Not even kidding. There's a video on YouTube.
Nice.
Does that make you feel good?
Mate.
No.
Nice.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Nice, mate. CatZ, that's a nice victory. Nice.
Crikey.
Bang.
Is that what we're doing? All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Catch, you're a waster, man.
I'm a waster?
I could've